Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am just. This is the March 31st Saturday Hypnosis Live Q&A. I'm David Barron. Those of you who don't know me, who are new to this, I've been a professional hypnotist for nearly 20 years now, and I have started 3 hypnosis practices. One of them is all but one of them are still around. So I've worked with, my guess is around 10,000 people, or at least 10,000 people is when I decided to quit counting. And that was a few years ago. So if you notice the description here, we have some topics we're going to cover today. The whole idea of hypnotic seals, that was asked earlier. Also, my best recommendations on studying and learning hypnosis, as well as the possibility of doing a 3-day live hypnosis training in person. I've done these before. It's been about a year since I've had them. And it is something I love doing. It's just, actually, the difficulty of doing a live training is really the organizing. It's not the doing it. That's a little exhausting, doing a 3-day training, but organizing it, getting it all together is a little difficult. Also, want to talk about some things that I know about working with clients, things that have worked incredibly well with me, about how to use every moment effectively when you're working with a client. Had a question also about best ways to change a belief. We've talked about the meta yes, meta no pattern before, but also want to talk about some different things as well. And lastly, again, a request was on the on improving memory, and improving memory in such a way that it is not the learning place training that I have. So during this whole thing, you are completely encouraged and welcome, and please comment below so that if you have questions, I'll be happy to talk with you. I am just a moment here. I am pulling up some information that's relevant to the very first question, which is the question about hypnotic seals. So bear with me. There is a book that is available on Amazon that if you're really interested in hypnotic seals, it's pretty good. It's very thorough, and I'll show you that in a second. Keep in mind, I have the Kindle version of it, so I'm just I can't just reach out and get it. I've got to plug it up here. And this meeting, excuse me again. There we go. Okay, so this is the book, Hypnotic Seal: A Practical Guide by S.E. Hamlin. If someone finds I'll post a link to it in the comments below. And essentially, for those of you who do not know what a hypnotic seal is, it is something that some hypnotists have used and done in order to prevent anyone else from hypnotizing them. So essentially, it would be something along the lines of, if anyone other than me attempts to hypnotize you, you will become irritable, distracted, and not follow the instructions. Or if someone other than a doctor or a psychiatrist attempts to hypnotize you, you will immediately fall asleep. And essentially, hypnotic seals are not very ethical. I don't encourage anyone to use them. I guess a couple of the relevant ways that one could use them that still might be unethical was if you were using a hypnotic seal to create a information courier where only someone, a specific person, could induce hypnosis and sort of unlock the information that the person was carrying in their mind. My personal experience with hypnotic seals is rare. I think maybe I have come across maybe 2 in my career. They're not that common simply because they're difficult to do well and they're really easy to undo. A hypnotic seal really, I mean, first of all, there's hardly any need for it unless the hypnotist is just a general asshole that wants to control people. So, you know, my experience is that there's really no need to do it. Hang on just a second. I am getting some further information here. Bear with me. All right. Okay, so, hey, guys, thank you for sharing this video. I appreciate it. You get a chance to share this with someone who is interested in hypnosis, please do that. Share it to a group as well. There are quite a few hypnosis groups. It's not something I personally have the time to do, and if I did have somebody to do it, they'd be sitting here on the other computer sharing it to every other hypnosis group that's out there, and I might be getting in a little trouble for doing that, but that's okay. Now, with regard to hypnotic seals, how to deal with a hypnotic seal is first, my experience is that most people will know that they have a seal on them. My very limited experience is that someone tried to hypnotize, well, actually this hypnotist really abused a client and made it so that she couldn't go into hypnosis. And I was simply speaking with her over the phone. And what I did was I instructed her as she went to sleep at night to think about this hypnotist and simply say the words as she went to sleep at night. I release all, I remove all of your commands from my mind, something along those lines, but a very simple affirmation that she would go to sleep to at night. And really interesting, what she reported was that the next day she had this dream in which she saw this fellow. Oh boy, the embarrassments of sneezing while you're doing a live presentation. Okay, so during the dream, she saw this fellow who was hypnotizing her, who had abused her essentially, and basically saw this person as, instead of a hypnotist, instead of as an abuser, saw this person as an incredibly flawed human being and sad human being. And at that particular point, all of the commands, the instructions, the hypnosis seals just sort of dissolved away. The other way to, if you suspect someone has a hypnotic seal on them, the easiest way to remove it is start doing it somewhat covertly, doing the induction covertly, and asking them about what they remember about being hypnotized by that other person. And then as you ask questions, have them go back to, in memory, to being hypnotized by that other person, so that in their experience, in their mind, you're not hypnotizing them. They're re-experiencing the hypnosis from the other hypnotist. And simply let the person's memory of the other hypnotist sort of take them into hypnosis. And then you can guide it deeper and remove the seals that way. And then removing the seals is really straightforward. You simply, instruct the subconscious mind that All previous instructions that would forbid hypnosis are now removed. You can freely experience hypnosis from any person who you feel safe in the presence of. Something along those lines. So that's the general information, the general advice I have about hypnotic seals. And let's see. Again, this is the book. Hypnotic Seal, a practical guide. It is pretty big, quite a bit of detail, much more than most people are ever going to need, but very useful. The other question is someone asked about on this forum the best way to learn hypnosis. And I've said it here before, I will continue to say it. There is plenty of really good information and even bad information out there about learning hypnosis. Get as much of that information as you can, learn it, and apply it. It is not just in opening up a book or listening to a presentation or taking a course that you're really going to learn hypnosis. It is when you are with somebody. Hypnosis, being a hypnotist, is a dynamic process. It's not a static process where you sit reading a script. You're only going to get that experience by getting the information you have, sitting in front of someone, a friend, a volunteer, and hypnotizing them and seeing what kind of results you get. And again, you can do this through a script. I always recommend you learn the Jeff Stevens model, which I have on my website. It's to download. It is one of the very best instructional methods of hypnosis. There are plenty of other ways of learning it and plenty of other models of hypnosis, but the Jeff Stevens model is really the simplest, the most direct, the easiest to understand, and the easiest to apply. I just think it's a gold mine. Learn it and then build from that. But you can only build from it when you're working with people. So how do you find people? You would do this by simply, I'll tell you what not to say. Don't say, hey, let me try hypnosis on you. Don't say that. Because hypnosis demands a certain degree of trust and confidence, and being hypnotized by someone who just learned a little bit about hypnosis does not instill a great deal of confidence. There is a whole series of suggestibility tests, for example, that are done by universities. And typically, what the universities do to test suggestibility is they have a grad student, who isn't even a professor, but a grad student, read a script, a hypnotic script, to a bunch of people. Now, I ask you, are you going to put a lot of trust in an inexperienced grad student who is going to mess with your mind? No, not likely. So people do go into hypnosis, some more than others, but it's really going to be by involving yourself with this other person, letting them feel as though you have authority, you can be trusted, letting them know that you're there to help them and that you have the experience to do the right thing. It's really the only way to do it. Get in front of people. So you find a hypnosis book. Okay, read a couple scripts. In your mind, practice it. Practice saying it aloud. You have to say it aloud because you're going to say it aloud anyway. Practice saying it aloud. And when you feel you're ready, go up to your friend, your family member, and you say, let me show you some hypnosis. Don't say, I want to try this. Don't tell them it's your first time. Just say, I'm a hypnotist. I got the hypnotist badge on, so I must be a hypnotist. and tell them to follow your instructions. If you do that, you are going to get, well, you're going to get a whole bunch of different results, but it's only in putting yourself in front of somebody and practicing hypnosis are you going to be any good at it. So go out, read all the books, go to YouTube, spend a couple hours every day watching every hypnosis video you can, reading about hypnosis, but also spend a couple hours a day or a couple hours a week actually with someone hypnotizing them. That's how you're going to learn it. There's no better way. I personally did, reason I started doing hypnosis is because I wanted to have the experience of hypnotizing people. So the only way to do that is to present myself as a professional hypnotist and go out there and do it. That's pretty extreme. There are probably less, more sane, more economical ways of doing it. I basically, leapt into the fire with limited funds and started my own hypnosis practice. It worked out as far as it worked out, which is pretty good, and I'm very proud of it. But again, if you can just get with people. Now, I have every week or so, I hold a meet-up. And it's where a bunch of people get together. We talk about hypnosis. We talk about neurolinguistic programming. These are also really great opportunities to practice hypnosis on people. So again, one of the better ways to do it is just getting in front of people. On that note, I wanted to hang on just a second. Let me just see if anyone else is commenting here. Oh, we've got some comments. Excellent. Ed posted a comment. Oh yeah, learn the element induction, very good. Ed gave some very good recommendations. Element induction, get the book Hypnotherapy by Dave Ellman. He is seminal in the spreading of hypnosis through the 1950s and 40s and 50s. Get the book Hypnosis by David Ellman, read that. Jerry Kine's course and Orman McGill's book is very thorough, and even though they're a bit outdated, they're pretty good. Ed says they're dangerous. I'd like you to describe that in a little bit more detail, Ed. The dangerousness is in how the information is used, not the process that it's being used as. So that's my opinion of it. Now, on that note, the 3-day, I want to talk about the opportunity of doing a 3-day training in hypnosis. So what I'm talking about is it would be a live presentation. You would be with a group of people. I'd be teaching it. It is one of the best ways to learn it because you really get the experience of hypnotizing people. You're going to be experiencing hypnosis. You're going to be doing hypnosis on other people as well, having it done on you, and going through each of the 10-step processes. It is very much like the course that you can download on my website from Jeff Stevens, except it's just not information. It's actual hands-on practice. Oh, okay. Ed posted something really good. He has the challenge induction where that knockout spray is in the sleeve. Yeah, don't do that. That's not a good thing. But going back to the 3-day training, I just want some feedback on it. If this is something you'd be willing to travel to do, I'm probably going to be holding it in Boise, Idaho, and within the next couple of months. The website is up, but we don't have dates. We don't have location yet. Those are pretty minor. It's just a matter of setting it up. I'm going to talk with the marketing person I'm working with and see what kind of arrangement we can have and make. But yeah, we're talking about a 3-day, really intense training. My ideal beyond that is to do an advanced training. And the advanced training is something that I'm really looking forward to, because the advanced training is really the 3-day process, or the 3-session process that I use when I'm working with somebody to make really dramatic change. And that is much more advanced, so I am looking to perhaps do some things, do an entire training on this. And hang on just a second, I'm going to grab some more information here. There we go. Okay. Now, I also, so on that, there we go. So on that note, yeah, I would love to know what kind of comments you guys think about doing a live presentation, and especially about following it up with a advanced training. Now, the advanced training, it probably could be done in 1 extra day. An advanced training is basically teaching the 3-session process that I use to make dramatic change. And you can get a very strong and dramatic change in 1 session, of course. I used to do that a lot, but I just find you can make people feel incredibly great in 3 sessions. So that's why I have the 3-session program. Let's see. Oh, hey, Keith Anthony, glad to have you here. So now the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is, let me get there. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is using every moment effectively when you're with a client. And just substitute person for client. This is just something that you can do if you want to have a powerful and a positive effect on anybody, in any situation, in any relationship. This is something you can do. Of course, do it if you're working with hypnosis clients. But you've got to imagine, if you're working with a hypnosis client, you have a limited amount of time. You have an hour, maybe it's only 50 minutes to actually work with somebody. So every moment within that hour, that 3,600 seconds, is valuable. Once you are clear on what you have to do, not only clear on what problem you want them to be rid of, but also how you want them to feel afterwards, the change that you want them to have. Once you're clear on that, every second of your interaction has to be lasered in and focused on that. Now, I'm just going to read something that I wrote from my advanced hypnosis training, and it'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. It's important to keep in mind that every moment the hypnotist is interacting with the client, it is part of the change work process. Parts may seem informal and conversational, but everything has a purpose, no matter how trivial it appears. Everything that is said and done by the hypnotist must be done to help the client accomplish their goal. Use everything, waste nothing. Every interaction, every phone call, every text message, every email, every greeting, the intake process, the hypnosis session, and the follow-up session should fulfill one of these objectives for the client. Okay, again, everything you do has to fulfill at least one of these objectives for the client. It has to provide reassurance. It has to create anticipation. It has to strengthen the ego. It has to reaffirm self-worth, self-esteem, positive self-image. It has to validate their success. It has to build optimism, and it has to reframe failures as valuable lessons. Let me go over, that's 7 things right there, but let me just go over every one of those and why those are just dastardly important for your success. Okay, provide reassurance. No one is going to, the very first one is provide reassurance. No one is going to, let's just say it this way. Every time you reassure somebody, they are comforted, they are calmed, they are brought closer to you. They trust you more. So provide reassurance. That's number 1. Number 2, create anticipation. You want them excited for the next step. You want them excited for every second that is following them. You want them to anticipate how awesome the week is going to go. I always want them to anticipate how incredible they're going to feel at the end of the session. That's just a start. And then I want them to anticipate the next session, what's going to happen there. So you just have to build that up. With that anticipation, they are just incredibly eager to follow your instructions. You have to strengthen their ego. That's a whole thing in hypnosis, ego strengthening, making them feel of worth, making them feel good about themselves. Now that's also, that's the 3rd one, but it also relates to the 4th one, which is reaffirm their self-worth. Remind them they are worthwhile people, that they have self-worth, that they have every reason to respect and love themselves. One of the reasons people are in a hypnosis session is because what they're working at trying to do is to get results by belittling themselves. For example, I'm a fat pig and I need to lose weight. Well, they may lose weight, but they feel like crap about themselves. So if they can do the very same thing to lose weight by feeling great, then you're getting some really positive results. So build a positive self-image. Now that's part of the the magic mirror process that's done in the hypnosis section. The 5th one, validate their success. Everything that they do successfully, bring it to their conscious attention. So if you're doing an eye lock induction and their eyes are struggling to open and you tell them, stop, go deeper. You're doing great. That was incredible. People want that validation for their success. Likewise, if they ever return to you and talk about something that worked for them, how surprised they were, validate it, acknowledge it, bring it to their conscious attention. I remind people that the subconscious mind works on a really positive reward system. When you notice something is going well and you tell the subconscious mind, atta boy, go for it. The subconscious mind gets really eager to keep doing it. So as you do that, as you validate their success, it becomes easier for them to just continue having more and more success. The next one, the 6th one, build optimism. Again, keep in mind how many people come to the hypnosis session. They are sometimes desperate, they're sometimes in despair, they've tried everything, and they are not optimistic, so that's why they're in there. So encourage them, let them know that they're going to look back on this and know they did a great thing. That's a little time distortion thing that I always do at the end of a phone call. You're going to look back on this and know that you did a great thing. And the last one, reframe failures as valuable lessons. So a lot of people will talk about their failures. A great example is I'll have a smoker come in. They do a really good job as a non-smoker for 2-3 days, and then they stop. They start smoking. Something happens. You know, my last client who did that had 6 police officers on her front yard, banging on her door, asking why they received a threatening phone call from this number. And it was all a big mistake, but it caused enough trauma for her to start smoking again. Okay, she thought it was a failure. That's very natural. It's very normal. People think, oh, I failed. And I point out, no, you didn't fail. My goodness, you went 3 days without even a craving. That was incredible. Now, the only thing that happened is we now know that there have been triggers that will cause you to start smoking again. You know, and 6 police officers with their hands on their holster in front of your door, that would definitely be one for a lot of people. So we've learned something really valuable here. We need to cover this type of trauma. So you reframe it. It wasn't a failure. It was a lesson. Another thing I always work with people when they talk about, you know, I quit smoking, did it for 5 years, and I was hanging around with friends and decided to have a cigarette, and that destroyed it. That's when I failed. And I remind them, well, I don't think you failed anything. I mean, what did you learn from that experience? And generally what they're going to say is, don't have that cigarette. Well, it's a great lesson, isn't it? It was a really valuable lesson. Great. So reframe failures into successes. And I can't emphasize how important that is. So once again, every second that you're with people, focus in on them and just imagine doing any one or all of these things. Provide reassurance, create anticipation, strengthen how they feel about themselves, validate everything they've done well, build anticipation and optimism, and reframe failures into valuable lessons. It works ideally when you are working with a hypnosis subject, but hell, do it when you're working with anybody. People are just going to love you as a human being if you just think in those terms, that I have this interaction with this person. What can I do to make them feel absolutely awesome having been in my presence? And you're going to build a lot of trust. You're going to build a lot of rapport and a lot of authority as you do this. So I would love to have your comments on this. It is part of, just a small section. I've repeated about 3 times though in my book on advanced hypnosis. And again, you can get that at the website, Mind Control Publishing. Okay, Miko, I really appreciate the contributions you're giving to me because you're really helping adding to the questions here. He asked a couple of questions about how to change beliefs and without using the pattern that I've taught here before called the meta yes and the meta no pattern. And if you follow that link, let's see, there is, and again, it's still more detailed than I really want to go into. And quite frankly, I do it so seldom, I don't consider myself skilled enough at it to do it in a presentation like this. But it essentially do submodality changes. There are a couple ways of doing it. My experience is if you can, first of all, isolate it as a belief, that it's not a truth, but it is something they think is a filter that is true for them. And it's not really a truth, but a belief. That is the very first step. So if they believe, you know, I am too old to go to school, you have to talk about first about that. That's just a belief. You believe you're too old to learn to go to school. In fact, you're using that belief to prevent you from going to school. But let's be really clear. It's a belief. It's not a fact. It's a belief. So now as you take that belief and you isolate it, instead of something they're just living by as a way of looking at the world, that you're isolating it as a belief. That's the very first step. You're separating them from it. And the other thing I like to do is it's ask them, when you say that in your head, how do you say it? And they usually haven't even thought about it. They usually just hear their own voice saying, "You're too old." And I say, well, what would it sound like if Mickey Mouse said it? "You're too old to go to school." How serious would you think that would be? Would you take it? And usually it creates a laughter. And I would say, well, just for a moment, hear that in your head, just like Mickey Mouse says it. Or maybe it's in a fading, giggling whisper, "You're too old." And how serious would you take that? And generally they wouldn't take it very seriously. And I just have them do that several times. And I instruct them to let that just be the voice that you hear that belief in. Now, really, seriously, are you too old to go to school? And by that time, they usually agree that no, that is a silly belief. And then, okay, so you've been able to change that belief. Again, it's just through auditory submodalities. So that's usually one of the better ways, or the more direct ways to do that. Okay, let's go up here and see what else we're going to be covering here. All right. Lastly, Miko again, thank you. Improving memory with hypnosis. Now, of course, there is, I've talked about this before, there's a whole entire 3-day process to create a very strong, almost an eidetic memory, a photographic memory for learning. But honestly, learning becomes really easy, or at least easier, when motivation is increased. I remember going to a camp where people were studying language, and there was this kid, he was like 12 years old. And we started talking about participles, gerunds, these are all words in language. We started talking about subordinate clauses, ordinate clauses, and these were abstract concepts to most people, even those who have had English language studies. They're abstract concepts, but he was incredibly motivated to learn it. So we were talking about it, and it was really clear he understood it. And the reason why is because he was very interested in the topic. So if you want to do hypnosis to improve memory, put an emphasis on the value of this information that you're learning, of how eager you are, how much fun it is to learn, that every second you dive into this subject, there's an excitement, a joy, every little piece of information that you gobble up, it becomes validating, and it fits together in a whole. So as you just continue to build up the motivation to learn it, it does improve the memory and the retention of it. So that's the easiest thing that I can probably recommend right off. Let me see if we have any other questions or comments here. No, not yet. All right. Okay, well, John Joe Gill, hey, welcome. I do not have, let's see, I do not have any other comments or questions to add to it. As I try and remind you, I do this every week that I can, every Saturday. I'm going to spend at least, hey, Miko, you're here, wonderful. I spend at least up to an hour at least talking about it. I want to cover whatever subjects we talk about here. If you do have a question or something you want to comment on, or an absolute criticism, I'm eager to hear it. You can either post it in the comments on the video, you can post it on the Advanced Hypnosis Skills Facebook group, and I will address it. That's where I've gotten most of these questions that I want to talk about today. And you can also send me a private message. I'll be happy to address it that way. And you know, if you want to just get in a conversation with me about hypnosis, it's my favorite thing to talk about. So I would love to do that. You can do that privately if you like. So again, please take a moment. There's a little share button. It should be right down over here. Yes, right down over here. Click the share button and share to a bunch of people, whoever you want to, a bunch of hypnosis groups. I really appreciate it. And if you have questions, send them my way. I'll be happy to address them. If there are, there we go. Thank you very much. And I say this regularly, you're here. And because you're here, you're not somewhere else. Here it is, a Saturday, and you're spending the time watching me. I really appreciate it. I deeply respect and appreciate that sacrifice. And again, I will be here next week. If I can, I will certainly give everyone a heads up. Thank you very much. You guys take care. We'll talk to you later.